Wa cỡ tu chi mù có tô chi đa lo ni vì do lu tê mù ha wa tho lò e lu chơ mù wa tho cha lò ma cứ tì mong tu nung cha cầu mỏ cho mi đo nu nè cha tề tu tề sai ni tha sống được dân khía tề nia đo tề chi tề lu chơ chi tề chi tu lỡ tề tề rồi nói với chi tề mù chơ chơ lỡ dân đồ tề nia cho tề chi tề nia tề chi chê ni của mi chê ông của mò mù bông ni đa tề nhà tề chi chê ni nhua khổ lu cho lời lù lùa mù wa na lò ma cứ tì mong tu lời nông cha cầu mò đô nu nè ta nó chi tê mù chơ chơ ta ni rong chi ta li ngỡ nhẹ liên mi chua nhớ mù cố xí lù lơ trốt thua tò trong mù bê hô ha mi cứ tì mong tu nung trang wa cha lại bê chơ tề tu tề sai ni chơ chơ mu cờ tu dù có to dù đá cờ chi có to tu chi lò lo vì do lu tề mù wa cho cha lu chơ mù wa cho lò lo ma cứ tì mong tu nung cha mi go wa thiên đô nu tề sai ni lo tha tu tơ khía tề nia thiết tề chi tiệt ta nó lu tê lu chơ chi tiệt chi tu lỡ tiệt tiệt che nhớ tao chi tê mù chơ chơ nhớ cho tề nia tề chi o tề cứ tề tí nho che nhớ tao lu cho lỡ lù luôn nọ mê cứ tì mong tu nung cha cha tề tu tề ki chi tề mù chơ chơ ta ni rong chi ta li ngỡ nhà lia mi chua ya mù xí lù lơ trô tề nia ta tỏ lo ma cứ tì mong tu nung cha mi go mua thô nu nè wa cha tề tu tề khi ni yon tì su lời ru che cho tề mi khan hai ni yo mu cho cho to mi ho ca ni che lời lì lo bỏ má giờ xua lú mi gò sang gò lú mù sĩ tư ta mò nì lo to lờ nhà tí bê nô e chữ lờ lì bơ trô bỏ má mù nhà thay xa lo má cứ tì mong tu lờ nâng cha gò mò đô nô e nì đồ kia tì nhà cho tì chi o tì cứ tì tì nhó trô tù sông mù bơ lo xa nì tùa nhó nô mù chi tông thế mò mù chi tông đó nì trái lờ tù trư trả tùa nhó lo bỏ mà nia thái mù chi nia ba e thiệt tố quang tố cho quang tố e sa pa ru giờ e tùa nhó trô bỏ má đơ tu yu ya sa lo ma cứ tì mong tu nâng cha mi cầu mòn trô nu nê yo ta nó tề tu tề sai ni mu cờ dù lo to dù e cờ chi mu lo chi to ni mu cờ tu dù lo e cờ chi lo to chi cha tề tu ni mu cờ dù lo to dù lo e ta nó lu chạy lu nhung cho ni tua nhỏ to chi thơ sông mù tơ ta nó e ni chi ta để lo tề mi la mê bê sông hoa hư em ni yo mo cu tu ni cha lo wa bê mi cứ tì mong chua tu rung thơ cho lo ma cu tu ni chi mi kha để lo thế la mê bề sẵn sơ lọ quá na e chi mi hô cho lọ kia là mê bề sẵn quá hữu sơ lọ quá nọ e gì nó cố tu nè e kê lự xe tu do lơ nì mô trò lì trong trô tù to khó mù tê to cá chi bỏ lỡ lọ mà cố tu nè wa cha cha ni chi tê mù chơ chơ ta ni chê lờ lì nó bỏ ma giờ xóa lô mi gò sân gò lũ ta dù dân trô số bài đề đó ni trừ lờ lì bơ trô bỏ ma mù nia thay rõ lo ma cứ tì phong tu lời nồng cha mi cầu mòn đô nu mi yo tua nhỏ nu mù chi to đê mò mù chi to to ni sa lời tu trư tia cha tề tu tề ki cờ tu dù lo cờ chi to cỡ tu chi mù cỡ chi so thiệt li quán to cho quán to sa pa lơ ru je e tua nhỏ trô bỏ má đơ tu yu ya ro lo ma mi cứ tì mong tu lưng nâng cha mi go mòn trô nu nê tề tu min sai yo mu cờ dù lo to dù e cờ chi lo to chi đa ni tua nhỏ to chi cho sông mù tơ sa nói ni tơ li tề nia tề chi mù lu xuyên trời tơ li tề cứ tề thi mù lu xuyên sa sông nó rong lu nia tề lu sông chè li mua cô tu ni cha lo qua bê mi cứ tì mong chua tu rong lờ thờ cá lo ma cứ tì mong tu lờ nâng cha cả tu mù ta ki cả em bi kha rê lo kia tê la mê bê sẵn hoa hữu sơ lo hoa nọ e chi mi hô cho lo kia tê mi la mê bê sẵn sơ lo hoa na gì nó một cái lử xe tu sao plơ chế mua trò lì trong trò tu tao khó mù tê tao ta e của tu nè chỉ tao xa lại lo mà nè mù chỉ ta để lo cho lo e chỉ hô cho mù vì là rõ cha e yo lo nó để mi cứ biết đi e lo nó luôn chỉ mù hô luôn nhà lo mà mi cứ đi mong tu lời nâng trái qua cha ta nó nì tao lâu bé mi cứ tìm mong anh chúa tu thờ trò e tờ trồng plơ e tu lô mi sẽ lò ma nì mu chi ta để hậu cho e chi đu tu đu tê mù cho lo cứ tu nè e đu mi cho mò ru mù ni đu mi bà tơ mù chi chữ e cứ tu nè trên lo wa bé mi cứ tìm mong tu rung thử trò e nọ lúa nhớ nhá e yo lo cho mù luôn thơ chi e yo lo kia tề tu e đâu lỡ tề khi có tề yo mu cờ dù e tề lo mu cờ chi mà sao trong đi tề lo trò đi bé nhau rồi ya tu bùa thâu y lo mà cứ tìm mong tu lỡ nâng trái mi chi hoa chi chủ li lu tu chủ lu mù cứ có đô ta nó lo hoa bé mi cứ tìm mong vừa tu dung từ cho e chi ta để e để chúa để chế lo chế để tu e chi hô cho e để nia để chi tu tu chi bao lo cô tu nè mù chế tê lu e tờ trùng plơ e thìa li khứ tao nhà nhỏ chế tê khứ tao cô e sao trò li tê lâu trò li giá tù bùa thảo u nó lo mà cứ tìm mong tư lời nâng trái cô chỉ tao sáng tao thì cô phải mấy anh này rất là rồi cho nhau chỉ tao trả cho chị bây giờ xin thà thì vừa trâu trong nó là một bóng trâu có thân năng gì thì tu thì nó nà gỡ là một tuổi bị chỉ nên nhớ trò tết chơi nó thông bờ thì nó tết chơi mình cả nói còn đi cho tu cho kỹ số lượng tu chỉ kiến là cái rong chơi tu đấy tôi chơi nó mà bị một cái tin nhau thì còn đi tập ba một vài một chế là chỉ bu còn mang đợt tệ rồi đợt tới này sẽ nó cái nhau rong bên cái suy nghĩ trò bơ rồi xong ốc hàng nó rồi nó xa nó kì
nó theo cho đồ Vue National Association bên theo lịch tô sĩ hở tua thả theo mua cái lò dễ theo celebrate chỉ cho xong bên tua tết chờ mình cả nó cho tết rồi sắp theo it's not clicking.
Where's he going?
It's not working. Okay, I'll wing it without it. It's okay. Thế rồi, sắp bố thì sáng cú lý cha, chỉ cú chỉ và sinh vui cho chỉ bố cú chỉ lên tiếng chỉ thế rồi họ bố launching, rồi họ chỉ bố launching là bắt tay cú tụt bỏ đại đua yêu chữ phụ theo và chữ phụ nhá sáng đầu nó chỉ sáng lớn lên đó có nơi bố thì cú sáng lớn lên cha. Thế nếu nào cũng yêu thả cho long the Google experience cụ thể là tao tao hay là bây giờ tôi lý giải thiết lý tao chú ý ba bây giờ mình nhớ thiết lý tao cái và mình tận đây chỉ long the Google experience nhau higher education long the Google experience to research including coupon the assimilation in the gender color line. Nó chỉ còn đâu chẳng hôm nào chỉ cứ yêu biết cho cứ phong đó cứ khó research nhau cứ phong đó nhau cũng phong đó nó chơi cũng thả cho straight line assimilation theo segmented assimilation nhớ đồ straight line assimilation theory nó chơi lỡ hạt tia năng giờ tới chờ tua refugees theo immigrants tua tới chờ non chơi lỡ cho patterns trong này cả lỡ cho patterns và tua mi cả chơi lỡ hạt tia đồ straight line assimilation lỡ hạt tia you tua chơi cho năng nó mà rủ và li mi cả đâu để khi segmented assimilation hạt tia chỉ only đó bây tia thâu ít thế cho bùa tôi chỗ nó chơi bí mua cho nên du hồ cho nên chỉ tới đó là immigrants to refugees chơi cho Southeast Asians nó chơi cho tia comment cho Nhã La cho Mlo cho Mông nó chơi bây giờ patterns giờ nữa cho mi cả đó là bây giờ patterns chỉ dùng li mi cả đó là bây giờ mi cả đó là những chỉ tao nè nó cái cho research nhớ những hay đó có cú phong đó chỉ những xã cho hạt tiền cho trends nó cho bây giờ hành năng nó phong nó bây giờ patterns trong lịch chạm bâyตัวtới chỗ nó bây assimilate trong lịch chạm nó chỉ su su thôi có bỏ mà đâu cho lúa lấy nhà phèn su su thôi lấy nông cho phèn tí à li nè thiết gì thổi lấy su su thôiตัวtới chỗ nóแต่ชีปีbỏ mình gì một đâu trong ít thế cho bùa gì chậu lấyปีnông theo lấyปีuo cho phèn mình gì trong gồm cả đó là theo cú skip khó music cú tự prepare nó thế thì cú tự play cho music qua liên tra from the 1980s một đầu liên tới thế thì trên này trên tàu theo whole internet thế thì còn phèn đó những emblematic những dùng tí à li mi cả đó hàng in fact cho phèn lòn đến tra nè từ lưu phát kỳ theo ít theo những nhau lưu phát kỳ nó chỉ cho cultural aesthetic nè cultural aesthetic dùng để đỡ hàng nhưng dùng cái dạng này cả một trâu ít theo cho bùa cho chầu nó chỉ bé học bí bỏ hay tiền mua mình nhiều like bí cho nên nhà culture chỉ cho chơi mình chỉ dùng cái cái đu theo mấy lấy cho low riders you people break dancers theo đồ ít theo cho bùa cho chầu thằng đó chính là tên là vòng li cái đu theo mấy số chính chỉ tao cho hip hop culture nên chỉ tao hay tiền và li cha lấy cho cái đu theo cho mấy lấy theo li và culture trong đó thằng đó chỉ chủ yếu là tên là vòng của mình chỉ dùng cái lời chứ nè chính tôi bao hạt tiền của lý trả lời theo lý của linh đó chính tôi hoàn đó chỉ là tôi ít theo cho bùa cho chúng mình cho ốp hạt tới chế bí sinh chế bí trả cho nên bí sáng lấy cho lu phải cho hand accurate tiêu nó theo ý cho thiên năng là bí mong lấy cho nó K-pop bí nhẹ lấy cho culture the Cô Lý theo J-pop theo J-pop chế ý cũng lấy cho nên culture theo lấy chế cho luôn chế bí nhẹ còn được bây giờ là một trâu chẳng nó chế bé bỏ thì cho lúa bí nhẹ hip hop culture bí nhẹ the arts and performing arts chế cho hùng câu theo hú ba hùa mình chỉ dùng cái thứ tức là chẳng nó chế dẫn tới ít thế cho bố cho chỗ đó việc thì ít thế cho bố cho chỗ đó chủ yếu là uo li cái thứ là uo li mấy thứ tức là chẳng nó chế to hay thì uo li trả lời theo li uo li đó break dancing because of gentrification because of racism xin du là hành năng nó chế lời theo li to chẳng nó hay thì họ hip hop culture nó hiểu trong lý trả họ chẳng nói chỉ biết bí bỏ hay thì liên cả lời hay thì woke culture nó chỉ là bị hay thì họ nhân dân hay là đa trị thiết tao tao hay tiệt giờ còn dân chẳng nói giờ tiệt giờ nên du lịch hành năng nó bé bỏ hay tiệt giờ cái trong cái bé giờ su lịch trả chỉ bé mua Facebook bé mua lịch trả chỉ bé share mua đồ lịch tu hay tiệt mua ý à chính chân chẳng nhớ đồ Oklahoma nó bé su lịch trả bé California là trong này nó bé giờ su lịch trả bé Minnesota trong này nó bây giờ xử lý trả nhớ hồ Wisconsin nó sao lưu vang lấy tua bây tuần hành lấy tàu bây tuần hành bây giờ xử lý trả trả nó bây mua activism bây mua share là uli nó rồi chỉ giờ lấy theo thời yêu bỏ hay tiệt ít thiết cho bố xa chỗ nó một giờ trả nó đây rồi yêu xa hay tiệt nói là cho luôn là nhẹ sư biểu thế thì nhưng họ cũng phong được cái chỉ là tôi说nói race consciousness nói hạt địa yêu bị giá cho hạt địa cú yêu lên từ thầu số thầu tôi tới trường mình cả non chế cú ơi có research thầu cũng nhắc về University of Minnesota cú họ lựa auto professor đó thầu cú trường cử cú đại PhD bây giờ có YDS survey Youth Development Survey chế có YDS survey anh chế cú bao hạt địa cho tôi lo đầu tiên cho nó có second generation 1.5 generation nó chỉ lấy sáu Olympica sư thầu sư thơ là tôi nèแต่สิเนี่ยเทศจีนจะจิตต่อหาเดียafter school นะทอเริ่มดังเลยจะไม่ตู้ไม่ใช่สามมื้อ after school activities สามมื้อจำบ้าสามมื้อตองบ้าแต่สิเนี่ยเทศจีนจิตต่อหาเดียยังอย่างเดิม不要给种เลยจี包เวียดเลยอยู่คนตัวเต้เชิงนอสิเนี่ยจะขอตัวจะย้อนหลักข้อ research จะเลยจะรวมตัวล้อๆนอนจะ1.5 generation to second generation จะเลยเดียวเนี่ยเทศจิปุ๊บเป็นมุนตอมบาจิปุ๊บเป็นมุนจำบาจะคนตัวยังยังอีกเขาว่า intergenerational conflict ถอดสุดทางเดียวเวียดเนี่ยเทศจิยังสากก็เกี่ยงเทียสากก็ไม่有用天了这啊对跟到他这也考了这有住了8年8几8这是政治到还得考 value 有他这那你被这跟到我到吉他了到violin 了我 extracurricular activities 领导头是头多得钱了那这nhớ đời trong ít cho bữa gì cho bé bỏ hạt tiền cho lúa thùng đời bị adapt bé mình cả theo lớn bé pa rồi hạ bỏ rồi ra chỉ tới sự lỡ qua time Jerry sao bảo luôn bé Amy theo có assimilation pattern đời nhớ rong li sao oli mình cả mà tới sự có pattern đời chứ giờ thầu ít cho bữa cho chỗ thầu ít cho bố cho chỗ anh chị lấy tao hai tiền cho lúa bị tao hai tiền bây giờ Olympica đỡ thế mà thế thì bây muốn đâu Olympica đỡ lấy tôi chỉ bút bên đó lấy nè Olympica because of racism Việt especially in đó cho chính năng because of masculinity anh chị mua tháp lâu mua tàu theo lười giả theo anh chị cho ba lai su thời nhau hồ tây chờ mình cả nó đâu cho mong nè giờ ba cobras giờ này chỉ bao nhiêu giờ ba cobras nhớ đâu sinh phò nó kia McDonald Homes su thời lấy ít ba nhầm ba số cứ chỉ hỏi thì ba lai ba nhầm ba số tây chỉ vì hạt tiền muốn nên thắp lô anh chị lấy chỉ lấy pi mua mình nhớ lai là su chị nhờ này sao bao tiêu của cha họ bí mật mình nhớ lại trong ulo li trâu ít chia cho bố cho chỗ tự do hạt tiền vì hạt tiền mua có racism đó lấy theo lấy bí sự lấy bỏ hạt tiền kêu đu ulo cha anh chị lấy ulo gangs lấy ulo mình nhớ lại nó chỉ bé ulo linh đó lấy theo anh chị bé khát thanh lấy theo bé ulo masculinity lên đó anh chị lấy chính đầu bé vì tiền lớn trai nè lớn trai lấy chỉ sáng đầu xin đầu rồi tháp lâu lấy đầuอยู่nè chị một giờ ít tiêu cho bộ một giờ xong áp phá cú cho hạt tiền còn tới có error bây giờ nên bị sát cho hạt tiền bây giờ mình cả đó bây giờ kêu bây giờ nên Asia bây giờ nữa cho nên mình cả đâu cho nên mình cả đủ bây giờ nên Asia nó chỉ bây people bao hạt tiền import racing nó chỉ cho chỉ thành số số thợ cho Honda theo Acura theo Nissan Toyota đây nó chỉ tuy họ cho nên Nhật Bản theo cho chúa nhớ đồ Southern California lúc anh đây ở California anh đây chỉ bây giờ không mà bị cái lợi sư bị khá bị lợi sư nó chỉ K-pop Korean music lo nông lấy cho Pink music lo nhưng họ làm được hơn được thế thì bây giờ nên Asia bây giờ nên cho nó mình cả đó là những K-pop thế mà但是头一天就播就讲了，整都popularly 讲了被bỏ，对呀，被讲蒙天比较 Asians 都同的特里 popular 是吧？了都讲了这first generation， 这 first generation 也被叫都多对起呢，都老了都年贴子了，对呀年贴子了，对 first generation， 了因多对了 common culture 啊 ，second generation 这了因啥我米家贴，但是贴给我米家这要大致我离米家多了米家多了，我离人都贴离我米家但是好我 third generation 这了比宝还得more value， 还得more经济有我们那这被宝，然后 assimilation patterns 还得 first generation 那这啥多的被好 culture。Second generation 这啥 job 这啥我米家了要米家的米家都了要的去被人贴的要有我米家里家，好 third generation 这了他比啥的有么的去被啥我大家我蒙多了，这被比宝还的古对真叫个古不呢真还的个真叫个做手我做手古么做手运动呢头古还的 arts 那这样领导有叫地超呢，有叫那个地超了我站那都跟我到长吧，人家吧摸半刀只要得手半刀，点半刀了要点一做手丢呢，了把还得看到摸梦地都被录 identity 了。这被比宝还得要是我站那这大家都被考试了了都了都看我 identity。chỉ mua chỉ họ thả cho cụ họ research thế đấy thì cụ cho chữ ba ở bên có slides nó lọc khen này hay tiệt racism cái ổn du lửa hành năng rồi tới cho nó nhưng đầu bên thì cụ họ research cho racial profiling nó nhưng họ case nhau họ lacrosse thầu su thơ cụ biết cởi bắt đầu UW lacrosse nè lấy cho phong như là thì lấy cho police mua là harass family chỉ lấy lúc cụ ba lấy đi chăng chỉ cụ thì ok bé research cho bây giờ racial profiling thế thì chỉ muốn chỉ hợp biết rằng họ nó chỉ cụ chỉ li chắc hợp bài thế này hạt thì yeah more racial profile nhau lacrosse mà nhưng nhau cho Asian Americans thế cho Asian Americans cho nên Asia nhau lacrosse là tự nhiên mong chơi lưỡi à nhau lacrosse chơi họ cái chú nhau được police chơi tự nhiên mua nhau lacrosse mà cụ hồ Saint Paul nhưng bỏ thiệt nói ở từ phong như cụ cho delicious venom chơi cho lo mua lấy cho concerts recently thầu bé mua chán dầm ba July 4 nó lấy tát tỏ tua performance thiệtแต่ชีกูตัวพงยืนนะวิตัวพงยืนลองเด delicious venom นะตู้ไซคอลีย่อกูพงเดินนะnữ tư tưởng trai hay tiền lớn mù tiền là vòng ít khó chờ thế thì thằng nữ tiền tưởng trai tiêu nó nữ reserve tàn thọ nữ tư thể có lớn mua security có mua lên từ lo sai có chỉ mua tấm mệnh đã chi thế thì police cho lớn lúc organization đó hay tiền thầu thứ mua mình nhầm không nữa chứ yếu mua xí tua yếu mua xí đầu nó chỉ lấy từ chỉ phụ nữ qua giờ là thì có muốn đi police vấn đề chỉ bé mà đi phụ nữ qua họ tên là vùng nó chỉ cú cho thế này thì racism kiến du bây giờ mong nhưng nhiều tiền chủ yếu hai linh đạo sư cú khó table nó on the Belu Office of Higher Education tới rồi này họ xã hội đâu trả nó này nhớ trong lịch trả mua inequality hàng cú xã thế này hạt tiền nhớ này chỉ kể cho này cho nên nó chỉ muốn lên từ kể cho nên cú hai đời cú khó long the cú khó experience in higher education nữa cú nhớ hậu lợi cho tables cú nhớ hậu lợi cho chơi by the way cú xóa từ sĩ cú luôn bị mong bỏ lý vư nhớ bị hơi lửa cú chỉ hay跑lý vư đâu lỡ cú chỉ doctor vư đâu lỡ cứ bỏ lý vư thầu hay cú xóa từ lên đời vì hay tiền thầu cú bài put when on a state university nó ít từ mình nhớ mong bỏ hay tiền tụi thấy mong sao thầu đó quý ít từ associate vice chancellor do Lu system office do Minnesota State cũng muốn gì đó lấy cho president theo vice president nên mình nhớ tụi thấy bỏ hay tiền tụi thấy chỉnh chắn có ability to mentorship có bé shipa lino do Holu National Association nó giờ trong hàng vì hai tia mua khó kế bao lino có lỡ bỏ hai tia cú dân nên mong cú xã mu xia lin tụi tớ lo những tàu vì thế cú thổ cú mu chín đó lấy cho president thế lấy cho vice president sẽ chơi nhớ hậu lấy cho hong trong linh đó nó chỉ cho nên mình nhớ tu mình nhận sai bỏ hết tiệt cú luôn chơi một trong linh nữa cú luôn bay trong linh nữa thế cú sáng linh nó theo cú luôn bay chỉ bỏ all linh đó cú luôn bay bỏ cho bỏ chơiแต่ชีเขามีการนั่นเจรู้มีการเจปอเราหาปอเราปอจัวเราตันทอยเผาซึกูรู้ไปปอน่ะอาจจะกูยังหายโตกูจะนึ่งเขาหรือเรากูรู้ไปปอจีเผาเวียดเผาเจเผาตัวมัวไปตัวย้อนเราไปลูก organization เนาะเท่กูจะปอกูน่าจะกูยังหายเลยแต่ชีthầu cho mình nhớ tu thiết chọn sai bỏ hạt tiền tụi tớยังmong trong lịch cùn có mentorship ability tới nhờ trực chẳng hành đồ bây cho nên nó có cú hai nó cú thứ hai tiền cú muốn riêng đó là cho presidents cú muốn riêng đó là cho vice presidents giờ trong lịch trả thầu lớn mua cho lấy nó hay nó nữa cho ở India nó chúa chỗ ít percent tàu degree nó là Minnesota trả nó đồ ở kia nó có pro bây giờ mong bao nhiêu pro percent sư chừng chỉ tàu thầy bố lý cho Burmese cho năng Korean nhiều có tốt tết cho nó sư cho nhiều có tốt tết cho nó sư giờ có chục percent tàu Minnesota thì she again họ nó giờ bây hạt tiền disaggregated data nó giờ biết lý cha chỉ bù bây mua cho ok đó năng Asia biết tiền nên mua bây cho đó năng Asia nó chỉ bây giờ lấy chỉ một năng Asia một cho chục percent rồi một cho chục percent rồi nó chỉ giờ tiền mua bây mua bị đâu lừa hành năng nó chỉ bây ở trong cái để si nó chỉ mong lại mong nhập pro percent sư họ nó chỉnh chén nhau thì thầu như mù nhau họ cho hong của một president một lưỡi hành năng linh đời thì lưỡi nhau xia linh đời yêu chi trả cho yêu cho năng nó chỉ muốn lên thì trả nữa cú nhau họ lưỡi cho nên office cũng đó teacher leaders of higher education đâu rồi nữa giờ thì cú chỉ nhau đó giờ cú chỉ trả đó lỡ chỉ muốn lên thì trả đó lỡ đâu bây giờ mong nào to near to office and to programs they wanna I have fought a lot behind closed doors that nobody knows about. I have pissed off a lot of people. And that's what I'm saying right now is that like bây giờ chủ shipa shisa to hạt tiền bây giờ shipa là chả giờ bây giờ shipa lên đó chỉ bây giờ khi ta bây giờ neng chỉ mua cho sang đầu giờ khi ta bây nè cho sapo cho thì bây giờ nó bây giờ nên nhóc có từ trả nó bây giờ nên nhóc đi nó bây giờ chỉ nên chơi cho graduate or college thế là chơi cho bên này ít nhiều dùng cha cho chỉ nên nó để thì bây giờ chúng ta hay thì bây giờ mua bây giờ bên này mua tàu dùng xe là thế dùng xe cho chính năng mình chỉ cho bông hơn cho bông drop out xe stop outs in terms of retention rates nên chơi bây tàu hay thì each semester le register tàu le nhớ đồ college một cho ít semester nó lớp bên nhau lò do lỡ làm đỡ rồi cháu ở chính anh nhớ đồ college anh chơi thầu cũng một cái bắt đầu thầu cũng một về mấy cái ô lưỡi tầm mấy cái rồi lỡ hết bây cho băm Asia nó ô cha lỡ có retention nhiều khối giờ 80% sứcแล้วเขา retention ยังกีชาแค่ดูแม่มีการเดินแล้วชัวๆตัวกีชาเลยตันท่อแล้วนึกว่าเดียโอเคไปหาก็อยู่จุดรอบแค่ไปหาเดียบริจาคเนาะไปจะนั่งเอเชียเนาะว่าจีโต้ยองบุรีเลยจะแค่ดูเลยจะแม่เลยจะมีการกลัวเดียนี่ว่าโป๊ะจะนี่จะนั่งเอเชียนั่นตื่นนี่จะนั่งเอเชียยังไม่แค่ตรงนั้นเช่จะจ้องเนี่ยแต่ตื้อหอมมองมาnên sao thì bây giờ lấy theo lý cần tới chúng ta cũng thẳng đó lấy cho tôi chọn sai cho tôi hay thì more pressure đó hành hay thì mong culture nó cứ thầu từ mỗi năng tua chỉ cứ lấy bài ba thế kể lấy thọ nhá để lấy khó account để lấy khó financial aid lấy chỉ thể lấy ghi chế lấy chỉ giá cho là tiền thầu mu ba cái li nó tiền một lần từ mu dối từ nhiều tiêu nó thầu emergency đi cụ hai giờ chỉ mua cụ nhớ hồi ít cho office nó trả đồ bây giờ mong tôi chỉ muốn lần từ số lượng thầu lớn một emergency money tạo men kế rồi đó tuy giờ cụ hai tiền mấy nhà mong nào nên mua emergency money đâu lừa hàng nàng lớn nên bao lời có situation trong lợi thế thì bây giờ mình mong nào especially cho chính năng đó là lại dối tôi nhiều đầu tư tiền sáng giờ nó chơi lại dối tôi nhiều là tôi ít chia rồi lấy sự thọ lấy khó nhẹ mùi dối tôi nhiều liền đó lấy nhau liền cha nè thế nè thế gì khó trong mà lấy những tất cả một sai nè thế gì mà chọn sai lấy những trong này đấy giờ tu lấy những trong đấy tất cả một ba nè thế ba gì để chỉ có yếu concentrate có yếu sát cho có khó education lý cha việc thì weekend nó chơi văn phòng vật thì có bài ba nè thế ba gì để chỉ có tất cả là cởi lý cha rồi có lúc lúc bao nhiêu được chơi cần đó yếu chịu sát cho hai tia cú manage cú khó time lý cha cú sĩ cú khó sĩ hợp lý cha tương ba thì thầu cú tất cả là nữ và sòng và thì là cho mình để chơi cú mali study trong awesome thế chỉ có lúc lưu chừng nhớ tại chế nè ô linh đỡ chơi your focus lý cha your lấy cho nên ô tu chơi bóng đỡ chấp lời con đỡ mà ba nè ba gì con đâu mà họ chọn sai nó chơi lấy sau thế lấy những focus chỉ tao việc thì lấy những cố xia hạt thì nè thế chỉ support bé chỉ lúc bé bảo lý cho tu chơi bé yêu chủ xã cho còn đỡ thế hạt thì bé yêu support bé cho mua bé cho sai trong lý trả họ cho tu này chơi lúc họ focus chơi focus chỉ tao việc thì lấy một pressure đó hàng hạt thì ít sáng là chơi cú yếu chủ mua ba nè ba gì cú yếu chủ ba cú có community còn đối với trong cớ để chỉ có balance đối với nhau nhau cần cầu đâu bây giờ tu nhau đâu mong culture việc thì lấy chừng nhau life focus đâu local education thế cú trong xí hạt thì ở bên trong nó lấy bị thả cho mental health đâu cho chính này biết thì bây giờ mình nhiều tu một cần đó lỡ mua depression là hay người chơi bây chỉ cho xã bây chỉ mua opportunity vào sự thả cho hạt tiền bây giờ sự bao lý cho chỉ cũng như trong xe thì bây bị thả cho hạt tiền mua xe nó có bao lý cho utility một tuần tệ thì mua pressure nhớ sao tụi nó là mong culture mong community ba nè ba gì ba cứ đi tụi nó là một pressure hay là cú sa cần đỡ trong lý cha chỉ những nhớ hành trâu là chỉ khó tận thế cú sa thì Vue National Association nó trong hành bây nhau khó unique position cho nó bây mua khó và bây mua xã cho hay là chỉ cho trong thâu là nó một tên mình trong lý ta đâu bây khó community bây xã hạt thì giờ tận đây nó bây giờ ba bây giờ tôi bây giờ xài trong lý trả theo bây theo lý sĩ tạo tao mình chỉ tham gia as much intergenerational conflict chỉ tham gia chỉ sĩ tạo tao hành có bây mua cái sĩ ba sĩ ở lên đó theo lý mua opportunities cho cái sĩ ba ở trong đó.
It goes up and down?
Yeah.
Oh, Licha. Okay. Got it. Okay. Can you hear me? Yes? All right. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I started to realize that I have to wear my glasses now. So it's kind of sad for me, but trong xe tông chính là rồi. Nhớ trong thầu giá sử dụng nó li nó chỉ trong li tu hai là của Dr. Buffalo Vue đó là nhà phi long Vue của họ lựa cho corporations, government, all of that. So I've been very blessed to have a lot of experience in that area. Chị ta là sư nhớ cho họ Vue National Association trong ấp hạ cầu chùa của ta là auto VP cho President nào đó. And so, yes. So I feel very blessed that I had an opportunity to serve our Vue family across the nation. And so, trong xe ta là chính là đâu. Thầu ta giá sinh cho nó thọ hậu cho bé trẻ sinh Vue số linh tu cho bé cho nó cho bé cho bỏ cho ô nè ô xí bé cho ô cứ ô tí cho bé cho phong yu cho nên cha thế bé cho bé tu nhiều số linh tu to sing what President Ning Yi administration cho chair Hani có planning committee, và nên chính tao bỏ hai cái của yo là hai tao bây là lũ cho bé chơi sinh cho bé có Unity Conference nữa rồi thế. Giờ đi nếu mà của thả mà của yo chỉ thả cho cái statistics trong đi chào, okay? I think Dr. Ba, ni yên thả mình chỉ cho bé cho statistics nhớ rồi tới khi mình cả nó.แต่สิ่งนึงมากูยอมถามsoให้เดียไปเขา journey นะในตรงนี้จ้ะเนี่ยไปเจอเก๋มั่วยิ่งตรงนี้จ้ะไปเจอเก๋หวานมิ่งตรงนี้จ้ะไอ้คนเราอยู่เขากุศลให้เดียไปใช้หมู่จะไปรุ่นนี้จะที่จะชง in the future what does that look like คนเราอยู่เขาคือจริงๆจะกู especially in the context of วิจารณ์ตุมิโย it's important for them to understand where they came from the struggles of their parents and their journey as well too, and how they own that journey. I think that's very important. And so, you know, kula thara, kuya chila thara. Đau cho lùm máu này, thảo này trả lúc gì cho cụ này, cho họ thì cụ sát thà, có bé cho nhiều, lần cái xia thì là tao, hay thì bé họ journey trong này cái, lấy cho nó từ nó thả xứ, tới chỉ phải tao mà lấy thả lùm máu tao thế này vậy, cái chỗ này lấy chính cái xia thì là chỉ tao, hay thì why we struggle so much, why is it important for us to truly focus on thriving, and what is thriving, right? What is thriving? So luôn chia luôn nó. It's really from surviving to thriving, a journey of purpose and legacy. May not. Okay. Oh, which one? Down. Got it. All right. Slide here. You see it? Okay. All right. So Kuyo halumikana, kusa halumika kopeko, mitumio gashia. So the majority of my conversation is going to be in English. So please forgive me for those that don't really understand English. You can also ask me questions afterward. We're going to have a table out there, and if you have any questions, nila jakuta. Sorry, thank you. Can you hear me? Raise your hand and say we can't hear you. All right. So as we look at this, right? As we look at this, our life is about a journey, right? We are on a journey, and we started that journey 50 years ago. Back in Laos during the war, a lot of our parents fought in war. A lot of our parents sacrificed everything so that we could come here because they wanted a different life for us. But the purpose of their sacrifice during the war is to really create an identity for us Hmong individuals, for us Hmong people. Because right? When I came to America, what country do you live in, right? And so they gave me a map. And they said, where do you live on this map? And so I pointed to Laos, because that's what my parents told me. We came from Laos. And so I point to Laos, and they look at me and go, oh, you're Laotian, right? You're Lao people. I said, no, I'm not Laotian, I'm Hmong. So when we came to this country, we really didn't have any identity, right? We had no identity of who we were and who we wanted to be. We were just Hmong. And so as we look at this continuum, I want us to understand that success and prosperity means we have to know where we came from in order for us to know where we're going and how we thrive. And thriving isn't just about money, right? It's how we use our resources, how we use our skills and talents to do great things, to uplift ourselves, to uplift our family, and to uplift our Vue community and our general community as a whole. So, today I'm going to really talk about, understanding that journey more deeply and what does that look like. So we're going to start out by talking a little bit about surviving. And as I'm talking about this, I want you to think about this. Surviving is meaning overcoming, right? Overcoming hardships. What does that look like? Right? I'm going to talk about that. And I want you to think about where you are in this continuum. Where are you? Right? Where are you in this continuum? Still surviving? Thriving. Where are you? And what can you do differently from today forward? That is the power of the next 50 years. It's not what we've seen in our past. It's not what we've done in our past. It's what the future holds for us because we own it. Okay? So if we look at surviving, we're really looking at identity formation, education, work, and family survival. That's what we had to do. And for a lot of you here who came during the time that I came, so just a little bit of background. I came to the United States when I was 4 years old. They say that we were the blessed ones. I have to tell you that when we came and we left, I never was in a camp, right? We came in 1976, in February of 1976. And we really weren't there was no camps at that point, at least not that I remember and what people tell me. And so when I arrived here in the United States, I was 4.5 years old. And so when I came here, there were a lot of things that we didn't know. And so we were in survival mode. And part of survival mode is to figure out how do you get to thriving, right? That's all. That's basically charge on that. There's a better future for us, right? This is why because we believe in a better future for ourselves and our children and future generations. And today in America, we still have that dream, right? For a better future for ourselves and for our children. And so we survive so that we can thrive. And in thriving, what is in thriving? What does thriving involve? Thriving, you're being able to apply what we learn, right? That's really important. We have to be able to apply what we learn. We have to apply our lived experiences. We cannot make mistakes 2 or 3 times. When we make mistakes, we have to learn from that, and we have to be able to move forward. On top of that, we have to build wealth. Wealth. wealth no ni tai li ja. Jope mo ma a lot of times we think about wealth as money. Okay? Wealth, but wealth is so much more than that. We're going to talk a little bit more about wealth. Right? What is wealth? Are you there? Are you going there? Are you thinking about that? Those are things that are really important that I want all of you to think about in your journey and in today's sessions. Today you're going to have a lot of people share a lot of things with you. And I want you to process that through your own lens and understand what that journey looks like for you. Because change has to start with you, right? Change has to start with your commitment for the next 50 years. So let's dive a little bit deeper into that. You know, our stories did not begin in comfort, but in hardship. We weren't given a roadmap to success, but we inherited resilience. With that resilience, we created our own paths to success. And today, you should all be proud of yourself. Many of you are very successful. Doctors, lawyers, just scientists, teachers, educators. We have people in every field. We should be very proud of ourselves. But that path to prosperity and success and where we want to go, we have to understand where we came from. And so while we started in survival, we need to end in legacy. And legacy is not what we do for ourselves, right? Legacy is what we leave behind for those after us. How do we pave that path? And I think that's very powerful for all of us because sometimes we feel like we're just one person, we're a peon and we can't do anything about our lives or other people. But you'd be amazed at the amount of power that you have when you understand who you are, when you understand where you're going and how you can bring others along and how you can build a different life for future generations. So as we look at this, let's look at identity formation. Right? In survival mode, we often ask ourselves, in survival mode, especially here in the United States when we first came here, right? We don't know who we are. And in survival mode, we struggle tremendously with our identity, right? Am I Hmong enough? Am I American enough? Oh, I try so hard, right? What do you want for yourself? What do you want for yourself, right? And you say that, you have to do what's good for them too. What do you want? So much for us to think and struggle through in our identity, right? So surviving in that space of navigating our identity meant that we had to balance two worlds, two very different worlds that had two very different sets of expectations for us. I want you to know we are an amazing people. Sometimes bitches start so idea. So balance so many things because we discount ourselves as being a people without a country, okay, as refugees. But we are more powerful than we can imagine because we have been through so much. Your parents have been through so much to give you what you have today. And so we learned that, we had to survive by balancing. The other thing is cultural, right? Trying to figure out, am I Hmong? What do I do for my parents? What do I do to pursue opportunities? Because those are opportunities that we wanted to be a part of. And so our identity has always been shaped by our history, right? As well as our language, right? Our language, if you ever, I don't know, how many of you know Ning Nao? Right? Do you know Ning Nao? Anybody? All the young people know Ning Nao? Yes. Ning Nao is a phenomenal person, and he really wanted us to not lose our language. And so he went back and studied a lot about our language. Do you know that we are our language is of 30 languages in the world that also are words in music and what we say. We don't even know that. We think we're not unique, but we are so unique. And so as we look at this, our lives, our identity, our culture is also shaped by displacement and the need to belong, right? We want to belong. And so growing up, I always struggled with my identity because I wanted to belong. I wanted to belong at home. I wanted to belong in the greater space. And so that was a struggle, and that's part of survival. We also had a hard time owning our voice, right? So bây chỉ cho hai lưu thế, bây một số giờ mong bây chỉ nên là bây chỉ bao lâu mong rong cái bây chỉ cho hai lưu chẳng chỉ hai lưu yêu kế thế, kế cho một kế tu sửa. This is how when we go, right, in our family, we don't want to say anything, we don't want to offend anybody, but then when we're with other people, we don't really know who we are. And so we were taught to be quiet, respectful, and humble, but in that process, we lost our voice. We didn't know who we were. And so we struggled tremendously with that, right? And in that process, we also began to lose our language and our belonging and who we really are. And so because of that, we could not truly articulate or express our thoughts and our feelings. And that's a journey that we continue to go on today. I remember someone saying to me and hearing this, and I'm thinking, wow, this is so powerful. They said, when you don't know who you are, the world will define you. The world will tell you who they want you to be. But when you know who you are, you know yourself, you will define the world. Today, I want you to think about, do you want the world to define you, or do you want to define the world in the next 50 years, right? Today and moving forward. It's a choice that we make. Beyond that, education, right? Surviving is education. Education, you know, growing up, my parents always told me, "You should job okay? Tapi bây giờ cho cha tu thì mo opportunity mo cần đào xứ. Ito cho thấy nó này chụp cần đào. And that's what their hopes and dreams were put on, right? So education was never about just grades. It was our lifeline. Not just for us, but for our parents, for our grandparents, for all of them as well too. That's a big load to carry, right? And we suffered through that because we wanted to be what everybody else wanted us to be, because education was a lifeline. And so many of us, though, suffered through that. We struggled, because when we went to school, things were different at school, right? Dr. Paul said that, right? Because everybody okay? Even though our names are enunciated differently and unique, and they mean something very different, all of a sudden we all became POWs, right? And that became our identity. And so we struggled with that, about who we were. And beyond that, the schools that we went to, they don't know our trauma. The students. As we carry that trauma within us, we found spaces that weren't made for us, spaces that didn't make us feel safe, spaces that we didn't know how to maneuver, right? And so we started to learn to adapt, to achieve, to internalize. Oh my gosh, so much at stake in survival mode, right? And we endured, because that's what we had to do in survival mode. The other piece of survival, right, was about work. Work was something that we had to do. It was not a choice. You know, a lot of people said, we got a free ride here. But I don't know, free ride to America. We didn't get a free ride, for those that don't even know that, right? The money for the plane tickets that brought us here to America, we had to pay that back. And so because we have to pay debts, even before we started working, work was a necessity. And if you're like me, I watched my parents slave away every day of their life. My mother worked 2 jobs. She cleaned hotel rooms, and she worked at the Fisker factory. And so I ended up raising my brothers, right? But they had to work to survive. And as we worked to survive, we began to look at what is it that we want, right? We see our parents going through all of this. And we look at ourselves and say, hey, I want something different, right? I want to be different. I want something different. And in that moment, there are opportunities that rose up. And in that moment, we had opportunities to be a little bit different. And so my question to you is, if you're in survival mode around work, what is that moment for you? Right? But the one thing that our parents taught us was work ethic. I saw my mom sleep like 30 minutes a day and get up early in the morning. She was gone all day. She showed me, along with my dad, that whatever you do, you have to show up. That's the work ethic that they taught us. Sometimes why should we listen to them? They don't know anything. You can't imagine what they've learned through their actions. Not what they say to you, but what they do and what you see. You or Mom, we should be very proud of that. Because our parents taught us that we have to be responsible for ourselves and for others. We have to get up, we have to go do the work, and we have to do it the best that we can all the time. And they didn't just tell us that, they showed us that, right? The power of action and their love for us. And so as we look at that, we began to look at, hey, I want to be like my parents, I want that work ethics, but what about passion, right? What about passion? Why can't I do what I want? We'll talk about that in a little bit. The other piece of survival is about family. In survival, family is everything, right? It is our shelter and our source of strength, whether we like it or not. Family, you Jenny, you Bakuti, you Janikcha, you Lumong community. Even though they may not show you all the time, they're always there for you. And that's our source of strength. A lot of times we say, hey, I don't want to be Hmong because I'm Miga, I want to be Miga. But who do you go to? Right? Who's always there for you? Your family. And we have to remember that. That's really important. That's part of our survival that we can't forget, because when we forget that, we forget our identity and who we are. And so as we do that, we have to understand that for us, love is about sacrifice. That's what our parents showed us. It was never spoken. Often we don't say, I love you, or your parents don't say, I love you. But they showed us love through making sure that we had food on the table, clothes. They sacrificed everything so we could be something better, so that we could have a better future. But through that process of family, there's silence of pain, because we are people that are not very expressive. We have, inherited generational, methods of coping, and part of that method of coping is to internalize the things that hurt us, and so that's what we do really well, right? You but that has become a detriment to us, right? And the goal is to find balance. And so how do we find balance in that? And so as we carried each other, we also carried pain and silence. But, surviving didn't define us. Surviving was just our way of introducing us to something bigger and better in our lives. And as we move through that, we began to look at something bigger and better, such as thriving, right? So you're surviving, okay? And then thriving is give me. All right? So what is give me? What is that? We talk a lot about it, but what does that mean? And to all of us, give amen means something different, right? For some of us, give amen is money, power, status, title, or just being able to have a conversation with our children, connecting with others. That might be give amen to you, right? But we talk a little bit about in thriving, what should we look for? What should we strive for? What are the things that can help us move forward in the next 50 years and really define who we are as an individual, as part of our family, as a group family, and as part of a greater Hmong community. So it's being able to apply what we've learned. And so we have to find purpose through our experiences, right? Thriving is about finding purpose. What is it that we're here to do on this earth? What is our purpose in life? And so thriving begins with survival transforming into purpose. And so we need to start asking ourselves, right? How do I apply the struggles that I have had into purpose? You know, baby Olika, baby bỏ hay để baby một cái nhiều xe nhà ta lò, baby một cái thợ sinh cái tu xe cái lò có mò, mà baby xe nhà đó lò ba baby luôn nín lika, baby có biết thế một cái cả xe một chỗ nhà bé số. So understanding and applying means not just for you, but for others, right? How do we use what we learn to uplift others? And when I talk about others, I mean your children. For our children, it means your parents. We always think about parents, but children. It's a two-way street. To thrive in the next, 50 years, we have to uplift each other. And we can do that. That's so powerful because we have the power to that. We also have to think about mentorship, right? Not just about me. Mentorship starts within your family. How do I help my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad? How do I give some of the things I've learned? How do I share that with them, right? And so it's really being able to apply what you have learned. A lot of times we think about education and we're like, oh, this person has a degree here, all of that. You know what I tell people? It's not the degree that defines you. It is what you do with it. It is the difference that you make. It is what you leave behind. That is the power in the education that you have. It is not a degree. And I want us to think like that because I don't think that I'm any better than any of you. I may have a PhD, but my PhD means that I have a greater opportunity to help others. And so when we think like that and we use education to help others, it's very powerful. So thriving is when you are no longer surviving, but you're building for yourself in a new generation, the next generation. So let's talk a little bit about wealth building, right? That's part of thriving too. Not only apply, but what is wealth building? And a lot of times, we wealth, they equate that with money. You want more wealth, but to me, that's not it, right? Wealth is so much more than just money. Yes, money is a means to get some of the things that you need and that you want, but it's not the end all and be all to everything. We have to stop thinking like that. Wealth is understanding where, how, and why we spend the money that we spend. Is that of value to us? Is that of value to our family? Can that take us to where we want to be? That's wealth. Understanding financial literacy. Wealth is moving from just paycheck to paycheck, making money, to how do we invest that money? How do we invest in our children? How do we invest in our community? How do we invest in higher education? Right? What can we do to make a difference in that? That's what wealth is. Wealth is also about generational wealth, right? What is generational wealth? When I used to think of generational wealth, generational wealth, right? But it's so much more than that. Generational wealth is what your parents give you in the lectures that they give you.
đứa bỏ thì bây giờ speaker là lòng thả cho cái chuyện chân thiên ba thì bây lúc dù chỉ sử vui là bây giờ là một trong những cái bản tin đó là về họ nói những họ của chuyện chân của Vue National Association bây cho board thì bây mỗi xã lò thì bây giờ là bây giờ là ba tôi bây giờ tôi dùng là gì thì của những họ của bây giờ mua khỏi induction ceremony khỏi induction ceremony màมีการถ่ายรูปหันเดียไปซาหล่อมัวไปจอหล่อจะจื้อไปจอจอว่าจ่อไปน่ะไปยาวๆจะหล่อจอเลยคอไปหัววอ of achievement มันจะหล่อจอเราไปขอ Vue National Association History นะอย่างไอ้ก่อนตอนได้นอไปมั่ว history ไปมั่วหันเดียไปจอจะนอจะว่าอย่าจะตื่นเที่ยหรือจอไปหล่อจะด้วยจานอย่างสก็ไปมั่วคอว่าspace ว่าไปวันอะไรอย่างจะไปตัวว่าขอ induction ceremony นะมาไปสาวเรา recognize มั่วเลย induct เลยมั่วเลย accept เราโตไปรู้ Vue National Association นั่น so ว่าน่ะไปอยู่ปีโตไปเปิดว่าไปเปิดVue National Association Presidents แล้วไปมั่วกว่าตัวนั้นมั่วชิบอเราเจอตัวนั้นใช่ไหมลงมาทานดักตัวนั้นก็เขานั่งก็ที่เลยโอเครอ
因为我们的很哪个做三个做那个要Vue National Association 啊。cái chuyện đó thì ni bỏ là cho bắt là cho đua nhân độ hòn đó là cái là cũng tôi nói rồi một cái trong cũng tôi nói theo cái tổ chức tôi là cho chúng tôi nói cái xong cái chuyện đó là cả lưu loài lấy họ tôi nói cả cái chuyện bỏ thì lấy cho mình gì cho cái bắt thành
đó này cho
cái phương pháp này là chuyên thuộc trong nói để mình trả thế nào cái
cái lúc
đây là chỉ nên họ sẽ là một khoản này và chuẩn bị cho gì rồi cho việc tiếp quản đây cái nào cái cái tôi bắt thang nội cái giờ chủ sản Vue bây giờ chỉ đầu thấu cái sẽ cho mọi gì chỗ lo được chỉ số còn nói về cái chuyện của thì Vue Family Association nào cái thế tôi bắt thang thấu chỗ lo rồi cycle Vue cái cycle Vue tôi không biết cái cycle tại sao nhớ là Fresno Conference tôi chỉ nói cái gì nên chỉ còn duy trì cycle vẫn là làm này nữa rồi còn cái bỏ này ok thì thực ra cũng chỉ tôi là chỉ tôi bây giờ thì chỉ rất tôi bổ tỏa chỉ rất tôi chỉ tôi thế bây giờ thì tôi bây giờ thì bây phát hành thì bây giờ chỉ chính phủ Thái Vue nhất ở Wisconsin thì ta xin chúc sự cái yêu bản trò được tốt bản ra ok thì ta yêu bản rơi thì chị ta yêu bản rơi này thì chị hiện giờ chúc phước là cái danh hiệu Vue thuộc tổng đây thì tất cả Vue là tất cả rồi bộ chúng tôi đấy tất cả để cho nhớ là sạch năng tàu thì tất cả ta thì xin nói lên tôi nói thế xin nói lên tôi làm gì mà ta xin nói lên đó thì tôi không chịu được attorney contribute Thomas nào tu Thomas nó chỉ do Adam Jolong Vue ta đợi Adam nó chỉ xin làm đua tốt bên sự kiện tốt chỉ biết tụi con bắt thang từ Vue National Association này bắt thang cái gì
Lúc đó là bây giờ bây giờ VNA president nó tăng thọ lọ đầu hồ bên lu VNA history này để có bên có space nó mua lại luôn bây giờ rồi bên nó một chi cho chúng ta này. Giờ mà tỏ bên cho mẹ rồi lên tân thôi bên mình trên thế ít thằng luôn now represent bên chế Vue này bên chế Vue bên cho bên lọt tàu chỉ cho lúc sống này bên tua thì lọt tàu nó thì mình cần làm đi này. Bây giờ đi thay đổi là ý nhỏ lesson là bên này ok cả bên tôi cái đối cho là bộ công việc sự này có lại bạn yes
We're the Chua Vue. We are VNA to Education Director, trong cái cảnh rất là giáo giải trực tiếp với cái chuyện sử dụng
They don't understand.
bên trên thì you know way to cho nó cho quay you phong nó dạ để xóa bên trên mình tôi mình muốn em muốn xin từ làm chữ
We forgot to recognize all coordinators. Could you at least bên môi khó sợ đó. Could you at least recognize the coordinators top the rest of workshop á.
college ya ta lao pe viene pe no la scholarship to pe tu lo san lo college
Yeah. So
chúng tôi có tại pe scholarship
so at least recognize.
hàng luôn á nên tôi tại pe scholarship đó ở của pe đó vì cho nên là có cái là đồ bây giờ nó để chi thọ tôi tại pe scholarship nên lúc này nó đi ra tôi thấy các bạn có luôn Vue
Greetings, my Vue families. What a wonderful day it is today to be surrounded by our family and friends as VNA honors this year's scholarship recipients. I was asked to present today on my journey as a scholarship recipient, former VNA Board of Director, and scholarship donor. I am so humbled by the significance of this request and look forward to creating so many more memories with VNA. My name is Canoe Hang Gu. Gunia ta kuti yu gu wa mo fu ha. Here, Pania Toha, Gayato, Manitowoc, Wisconsin. I stand here today because of the commitment my parents made in making my education their #1 priority, much like many of you parents here today. As a child, every decision was purposely made to further my schooling, promote about higher education and reaffirmed the path into the field of medicine until it was a reality. In the end, all of their sacrifices were worth it as I walked across the stage to receive my medical degree. This last decade has seen my highest highs and my lowest lows. My VNA story began about 10 years ago in 2013 as one of the VNA scholarship recipients. I was in my first year of medical school, away from my 2 young children, my family and friends, trying to complete my schooling so I could graduate and make my dreams and my parents' dream come true as a physician. When I received the news I was one of the scholarship recipients, I viewed the scholarship not as a monetary award, but as a symbol of what I had accomplished and used it as fuel for all that was still to come. The scholarship was proof that everything I had sacrificed to get to medical school was worth it and that I had the support of VNA behind me. A few years after graduation, I received a different phone call from former VNA President Nandua Vue, who wanted me to join his board of directors. My initial response was the next few years were going to be very busy and it wasn't the right time. Fortunately, Nandua was very persistent and would not take no as an answer. Under his leadership, I was appointed the VNA Director of Women's Affairs. I look back fondly on those 4 years because as a team we started the Vue 100 initiative, updated bylaws, and created long-lasting relationships within the team and Vue communities we met from all over the country. Who knew working for VNA was going to be so fulfilling? Fast forward to today, where I stand on this stage coming full circle, having reached the professional life I worked so hard for. I completed my medical degree. I am a business owner of 2 medical spas, Radiance Med Spa in Milwaukee and Manitowoc, Wisconsin, and lastly, a VNA scholarship donor and presenter. Being a board of director for VNA has led to leadership positions outside of our Vue community as well. I currently serve on 2 boards, the Manitowoc International Relations Association and Manitowoc Symphony Orchestra. Life is pretty good for this former scholarship recipient. To all of the VNA scholarship recipients, congratulations on achieving this honor. Today, we acknowledge the hard work and perseverance you have endured as you continue on your educational journey. Your achievement as a scholarship recipient is a testament to your passion, talent, and hard work. Remember to embrace the challenges you face, learn from the setbacks, and continue to strive for excellence in everything you do. Inspire others with your generosity, talents, and wisdom. Let your voice and actions encourage others to pay it forward and contribute back to the community. Thank you to the scholarship sponsors as well as the scholarship committee for their commitment to our Vue family's education. This recognition would not be possible without your efforts. Lastly, recipients, stand tall, for today is your day to shine. The future is yours to shape. VNA wishes all of you success in your academic pursuits and future endeavors. Go forward and be your ancestors' wildest dreams come true.
Saya introduce committee na, cuma ada kuli mesti bos dah tahu dah na. Kuli ni tahun saya, Malika ke saya, tuan yang bukan ya, teh ke saya, nggak kucing tu, David ke saya, Cindy, alright, Jambo. Chứ mày nó cho bọn một trong đó chỉ muốn này thì tao được này cũng một cái sự cũng một tàu đúng không thì sẽ cho tụi tôi sẽ có sở đấy với là phải giờ đó đúng không bây giờ tụi nó muốn chỉ cho cái đó Fortunately, all right, this is our advisor. So the one of the center who judge na yung bukas scholarship jury na. Attorney, kapag fight ya kapag yung thao什么呀？kapag na châu ba kapag yung wala. 这个是多，在卡的是多呢，的古有天的呢，在和 committee 呢，这里的被筛的呢，是上导师被去筛的，只能目了，筛被到recipient scholarship来的，可能他个说那都还不了，但是我这个，这里一个包呢。
Hi, Nishama. It's an honor to stand here today as a scholarship judge. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge the incredible effort and thought that each student poured into their essays. Reading through them was a journey through your experiences, your challenges, your dreams, and your unwavering resilience. The scholarship exists not just to support education, but to recognize your potential, to invest in young minds who are already shaping the future with their words, their ideas, and their commitment to growth. As judges, we looked for clarity, thought, originality, depth of insight, and a voice that feels authentic and powerful. And I'm proud to say that every essay we read held these qualities. All of you demonstrated a deep sense of purpose, a passion for learning, and a personal story that inspired us. You should all be proud of what you've written and the courage it took to share. Your essays captured something truly special, and we believe in what you're capable of. May this scholarship be just one stepping stone on your journey toward making a meaningful difference in the world. And I want to thank David for asking me to be a judge. This was an honor for me. You all truly inspired me, and this goes to show that no matter how old you are, how many alphabets you have after your name, you can never stop learning. And it doesn't matter who it is, but you never stop learning. So thank you, and congratulations to all the recipients.
Thank you. Dr. Kambala. Tonight to judge, tonight to shut up the dog on the two essay. Thank you. Dr. Yeah, sorry. All right. So the Muna Busa recognized the sponsor, Chimo like a bit more to ask Kalashimaya. The sponsor, who probably be on the zero, okay? Chị em thế nhà chị em á, Dr. Delia bữa nay muốn bộ phim styling nhau rồi bây giờ là thằng này là什么？anh em có thể được. Dr. Judith vừa gửi cái giống cứ cái sự chỉ nhất là cái phần này cái tôi chỉ đạo thì tôi cho đấy thằng em có thể được đấy. Trái địa phương cái trái địa phương Asian Oriental Market cái là thu sản cái tổ chức tao là gì thọ cái nên tôi cứ cái về tôi nhận giải sắp bỏ cái này tin sắp bỏ cái này là tôi nên có thể vòng vươn cái đội được thân con lú hàng vươn này tôi nên là nó đây tôi sponsor tôi bây giờ Radiant Spa cái HB Properties này tôi nên là Your data children were visited at Wisconsin. Go ahead. All right. The last one under this, all right. Tonight you bit inside, like you bit more. Jane Luna, Luna is the one that she represent this small USA 2020. Then you buy the donation to Scotch. That's how that was. And then what they don't know. Everyone is like, oh, Yes. We should be able to hold, right? bỏ đấy cái xe vừa cái đó tôi bây giờ lúc tổ chức này tôi là什么呀tôi không biết đâuจะมาลองสกัดชิ้นเดียวมองรูฟีเนี่ยจะดิ้งสกัดชิ้นนู้นนะ alrightนี่ดูนะนี่ยังไงเอาไปเลยดูดิ
Hello everybody, my name is Kashia. I am currently attending St. Mary's of Minnesota. I am currently going for my PsyD in counseling psychology. I am just wrapping up my first year and I will be starting my second year in the fall. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for Vue National Association for creating this opportunity for me and providing this scholarship for me. And thank you so much.
So Zimuna to second recipient já chamou na Sacramento no coach da uma scholarship na Julie ku dental corporation scholarship também também tinha na boa alright so she's from Sacramento na Carolina Water University na tem a hot degree mas já é master of
Nè ní là một trong những cái rất là
alright nếu chúng tôi cũng chụp từ đấy nó gọi là tôi thì cũng trên này cái này rất là xin được họ master họ được người master social work ra thì họ graduation year spring off and họ có thể đi rồi thì so next one is Ariel Hu na tụi mình nhớ mình sau là thế Ariel are you here please come up tao có thể chọn the first scholarship in the year Asian Oriental Market Scholarship
Hello, my name is Ariel. I come from Little Canada, Minnesota. I am a student at the University of Minnesota, Rochester. In the fall, I'll be a second-year student, so I just completed my first year. I will be completing my prerequisites for respiratory therapy care. I will also be a community mentor to first-year students, and I'm working in a nonprofit organization group. I'm part of Letters of Love.
Thank you, congratulations. So next is Miss Point USA 2020 last question. Thì tôi tao nói thì Maya có biết không? Chị nào? Maya?
I'm right.
Yeah, please come up. Anh có thể
có chuyện ai thì ai cũng tu là sao có ai cho hồ hay là tu có chuyện sao.
Good morning. I would like to sincerely thank the VNA and the judges and the scholarship grants for giving me this opportunity. I would also like to thank my parents, Weseng Wu and Ka Shong. They are sitting right over there. They have taught me the values of determination and resilience. My name is Maya Vu. I am from Lansing, Michigan. I attend Lansing Community College and I am majoring in nursing. Next fall, I will start my first semester of nursing.
Thank you, congratulations. All right. Last but not least, Terence Wu, Michigan student. So yeah, so the young Minnesota, then the University of Wisconsin River Falls. They have degree major, they have Bachelor of Sports and Science, graduation in December 2025. So, when she told us she thought they were there, I will give you money. All right, so microphone to MC thank you for the sponsor. Thank you for the judges, all right? And also thank you for my committee, right? So MC, this is you.
BMG thì chỉ nó một cái tiếp lên là bên một cái họ là sẽ chỉ là cái bên là một nó mò thì bên nó mò thì tàn đó là cái bên nó mò thì bây giờ presenter thì bây giờ speaker thì bây giờ sponsor số lớn một table đó một chỗ cái table này do tiền này hoàn lên từ sản xuất là cho presenter thả là do bên to speaker nó là do sponsor lớn một table thì này cái chim gì nó mò thì tàn là cái chim gì chỗ Huawei nên mà đi qua một chỗ thả theo một kiểu này và nó nên bỏ thì là nó bây giờ trong những chỉ mua cho rồi đó thì mà không nói không bị không cho đó này thì tao nên làm mọi chỗ mọi ta là gì nên cả muốn nó cho tao này cái thêm gì này tiếp bên nó MC bảo thả bên gì thì chỉ khó cơ nó bắt đầu gì các tự thì nói và cái chỗ đi các tự đi cầu là của chính thì nói và cũng sẽ có bắt đầu như là một recognize từ chỗ họ từ lúc xưa thôi rồi chỉ mua là và năm mà bây giờ là chỉ mà bây cũng chỉ tao và
My parents, they're like face to face, none of that computer technology stuff. So, all right, so that's the demographics. So now we know who responded to the survey. So we have a good idea or a better idea of this response options were the same. All right, so the options to select from were the same, and there's another too, but different values came up as the biggest challenge from the children. Like to talk to their parents, they just had different values. No common interests, and emotional discomfort. They just don't feel comfortable talking to their parents. For the parents now, not enough time together. Parents don't spend enough time with the kids to talk to the kids. That's the biggest challenge. Next up was different values, right? Parents felt the same way as the kids. They don't value the same things. And then the language barrier. That's one of the things for the parents. That's one of the reasons they selected as having difficulty talking to the kids. Most effective ways of communicating. I asked that to both child and parent. When the most effective way to communicate with their parents for the kids were to talk in English. When they spoke in English with their parents, they felt that's the most effective way to kind of get their point across. And then some of them, the second best was talking at home. That makes sense too. When they talk at home, then they're more likely to be able to communicate with their parents. And spending time together. And so for parents to talk to the kids, talking in English gets the kids communicating with them, spending time together, and then talking about common interests. And so I thought it was really interesting that spending time together came up multiple times. I have kids of my own too, and they're still little, but then I can see that I definitely could spend more time with them. And if I spend more time with them, it would be correlated to communicating better with them as well. And so this is from a small data set of 115, so take that with a grain of salt, but then, you know, it's correlational, right? So it correlates based on this sample size, it's just saying something. And so some of the other interesting, there were 25 items. I just selected a few that kind of stood out to me, right? And so these may be more of the extreme differences between the two groups. or like the first slide, it shows the similarities of certain factors or characteristics that helps communication. But then there are other questions that were asked, and I felt that they were logical or common sense, so I didn't put them up. With this one, this is interesting. So I asked a question about active listening, right? So active listening, Dr. Shaw will talk more about it, but it's more listening to listen, right? Not listening, but then having an answer ready to go before they stop listening, or not listening and thinking of something else when someone's listening to you, when someone's talking to you. It's like active listening. I asked a question specifically about active listening. And if you look at this, the color, I don't know if you guys can tell the difference in colors. One is blue and one is like a red-orange. The red-orange is the child, it's their response to how often they think their parents actively listen to them. And the blue is the parents when I ask them, how often do you actively listen to your children? If you look at the parents first, right? They often and they always actively listen to their kids. But according to the kids, they sometimes only actively listen. And often is next there too, so it's more sometimes than often. Versus parents, they think that they often listen and always actively listen to their parents. Interesting to see that difference in how they feel about the other actively listening to them. Something interesting. Also, how often do parents explain why they discipline or correct their children? So there's a question about when your parents discipline you or correct you, how often do they take the time afterwards to explain why they're doing that? And so I asked that to kids and to the parents. And similarly, parents are blue. You see parents, they always explain to the kids why they're disciplining them or correcting them for any reason. But according to the kids, we have some never, rarely, sometimes. That's mainly the response. So according to kids, parents are explaining to them why they're being disciplined. And so that's interesting. I reflect on this, think about my own younger kids. But sometimes if they do something wrong, then I discipline them or I try to explain why it's wrong. But I mean, thinking about it, I think by the time I get to the explaining part, they tune out. They're frustrated, they're done, they're tired of me talking, and so they don't care anymore. And so they never really get to the understanding of why I'm kind of correcting them or disciplining them. Something to think about as we're communicating with our kids. Communication, I guess, involves work. I know in the survey I talk about like words and like the speaking part, but there's a lot that goes into communication. The tone of voice, how loud you're speaking, how fast you're speaking, your body language, all those kind of affect someone's reaction or response to you. So I'm not focusing on that, I'm just focusing on the data, but all that comes into play. So I don't know what is causing kids to tune out, but that's something that, I guess all research say, that's something we can kind of do more research on. So, and then, this is actually more important. I need to speed up because I'm taking too much time. So it's actually the most important piece of the survey. I asked for responses from the kids to the parents. So for the parents, I asked, have there been times when you wanted to say something to your child or children but decided not to, and why? And so from the 76 parents, I found themes, similar themes what parents would say. They say the kids are not ready for the conversation, right? They're too young or too distracted. So because of that, then the parents aren't saying anything to the kids. Some parents say they want them to learn the experience on their own. I want my kids to learn on their own, so I'm not going to talk to them about something, whatever that something is. The kids are hard to connect with, so then I just don't try. That's what it implies, right? Some parents are like, I'm here if they want to talk, but then I'm not saying anything, but I'm here if they want to talk. And there's also a few that say, I say everything I can to them, right? I say everything, so if they only catch 30%, then they're good. Some parents do that, and that's cool too, right? So these are the themes that I found from what parents are saying of why they don't sometimes talk to the kids or initiate conversation. Now, when I ask the kids the same thing, have there been times when you wanted to say something to your parents but you decided not to, and why? And these are some of the themes that came up. They're afraid afraid of talking to their parents, afraid of initiating conversation, fear of shame, fear of failure, embarrassment, criticism. So these are things that kids are saying on the survey. Some kids, they say it's easy to talk to one parent, but not the other. And this is actually really interesting. I actually wanted to do more disaggregation of this and more cross-tabs on this. Because it was interesting because the guys, the boys, that said that it was easy to talk to one parent but not the other, it was easy for the boys to talk to their moms, it was hard for them to talk to their dad. For the girls, it was easy for them to talk to their dads, but hard for them to talk to their moms. That was really interesting. Think about it. Right? This is the present, right? This is what's happening right now. This is actual data. Some kids, they don't want to concern their parents, right? The parents have enough problems as it is. And so they're worried, they don't want their parents to worry. And so there's a few of those. And there's some kids where there's no point. They're not going to listen to me anyways, so I'm just not going to say anything. But then there are still some kids who they can talk to their parents. And this is in no particular order, except like the first one. The first one is a lot. But then like, there were kids that do talk to their parents, and there were parents that do talk to their kids, but that was very few. Like, only very few parents and kids actually have constant or common communication, or they talk a lot. And so I'm not going to make any conclusions based on these, but I think everyone can kind of see and kind of speculate on your own. But it's interesting data, and I think that's all I have for you. I just wanted to. There's more. I have more data, but due to time, I'm going to move on next to Dr. Shaw come and talk about the future and how to kind of have better communication.
What did you think of that data?
Accurate. It is accurate.
Any other responses?
My kids don't listen.
Kids don't listen, that's what he said.
They're not actively listening.
Okay. All right, so what is communication? So if you want me to move on, you have to help me define communication.
Interactions.
Don't be scared of talking.
It's interactions, or just being able to pass on your idea or your thoughts to another person, and they understand you, right?
I have some cheat words on the board here. Anybody else?
I can just talk. I feel like sometimes it doesn't have to be talking to each other. It could be, if you're not a good talker, you can write. So you can text, or you can write it down on a note and then hand it to that person. Because sometimes you might not be able or ready to communicate the information verbally.
Yes.
You need at least two people communication, right?
Correct.
Talk to yourself.
Sharing.
She says sharing.
Eye contact and body language is important.
He just identified what's called non-verbal communication. So there's a sharing of information, the exchanging of information. That is the verbal communication. Then that. Did you want to say something?
I was going to ask too, for my own curiosity, how do you define communication from home?
It's very important, okay? And I don't know any idea. You know, you thả, you put near, you see, you try. eye contact အမေကလည်း eye contact ဒီထားလို့ချင်းကြုံနေ这有好 smile 这有 body language 那有就叫就这有都在那一样的你看哎我讲了这个来我讲了那个古 body language 你现在就过了这个都在一起存在古都多了那个话 that is funny but it's cool yeah 那这些你还去你接触对了就这个跟是 how you school 那是给让你们明白呢 it's nice but it's not very so the eye contact and body is move make your kids close to you and make your partner close to you okay so 就把你
nó có tâm đó thì nó là nửa thì remote side communication đi chả
communication
yeah
communication 这个一好的 communication
có remote mà
yeah 不包嘛เรา remote 的 communication 那其实它是叫路我路都可以周末好么保路干嘛还都中那个的人家姐姐哦不要着忘了这 communication 人家来各种的哦不是那个谈明清啊这么多难有我你知道吗这里住的都没有那个人家我这几个的 communication 而且呢记得到那有这个哦现在个对了都对了那个在中国现有了 communication have to be something that bring them close to you before you make communication happen
thank you
Yeah, he's right on, thank you. All right, so communication defined, everybody in here helped me define it, so thank you. So it's a sharing of information between two people. And the most important piece of communication to keep in mind is the feedback when you actually are exchanging that information. So that really incorporates that nonverbal, the head nodding, the acknowledging what's being communicated or again amongst each other. So that's key, is the feedback. All right, so we defined communication. Easy? However, what is effective communication? So that takes us to another level. Effective communication, it is more than just exchanging information. It is about understanding the emotion and intentions behind that information. You have to be able to clearly convey or communicate that message to the other person. And then the need to listen in a way that you are gaining the full meaning of what's being said and what makes the other person feel heard and understood. Is anybody in this room, has anybody been able to effectively communicate?
Sometimes. Not all the time.
Not all the time? Okay. Sound easy enough. However, oftentimes we are so quick to talk and communicate that sometimes there are messages that are taken incorrectly, or you're communicating and you're angry about a situation and what you didn't mean to say came out wrong. Or the other person is seeing that you have all this emotion attached to the way you're communicating and is interpreting the message wrong also. So what do you get by learning effective communication skills? It deepens your connections to others. So if you are paying attention to that other person, doing your head nods, looking at the person, acknowledging their emotions behind what they're communicating, that deepens your connections to them. You build greater trust. That person then builds that trust with you and feels comfortable coming back to you. And then you have the respect that you can build with that other person as well. And also it improves problem solving. I'm sure all of you do a lot of problem solving in your daily lives. And overall social and emotional health. So if you're able to get a message across clearly, and that other person understands what you're trying to say or your message, it makes you feel better. It doesn't make you, you feel just less distress. All right, so for the sake of time, I'm just going to move through the slides that I have here. The next step here is I'm going to offer some tips for you to really put this into practice in your day-to-day lives. This is really this understanding what's stopping you from communicating well. It really is a way of you to self-evaluate, to assess yourself, just take a step back and ask yourself, am I going through stress and out of control emotions that's a barrier to me communicating well? Sometimes you're angry about a situation, you may be in an argument with your child, you may be in an argument with your spouse, and a lot of times that emotion overtakes that communication. Lack of focus. Who's guilty of sometimes when you're talking to someone or your kid's talking to you and you're like on your phone, checking messages? You're in a deep conversation with somebody, but you're like looking away because in your mind, you're thinking about, what am I going to cook next? I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to do laundry. So staying focused on the conversation. That inconsistent body language. So if you are sitting with someone and talking and conversating, and your body's like turned this way, but the person talking to you is crying and sad, but you're like, that is inconsistent with that conversation. The other person is full of emotion, but you're nodding your head saying yes, but your whole body is turned a different direction or doing something else. And that goes with the negative body language as well. So if you're doing any of these are all barriers to effective communication. Dr. Buffalo talked a little bit about this morning. Becoming an active listener. What's really important is to fully focus on your speaker, whether it's a child, a colleague, community member, parent. What's really interesting, there is some data that shows that it favors your right ear, so that right ear advantage. If you turn your right ear to when you're having a conversation, that actually favors emotions because it connects the right side connects to the left side of your body, and you can actually detect more emotions if you actually turn your right ear and listen to that other person. So there's data on that, but I don't have time to talk more about that. So try to favor your right ear when you're talking to somebody, the right ear advantage. Avoid interrupting or trying to redirect the conversation to your concerns, right? So have you ever been in a conversation where someone's talking to you and you're like, yeah, I'm just so, I'm so sad about, my spouse and, we're just not working out anymore. And so this other person's like, turns the conversation to themselves and is like, well, yeah, like I'm also having issues like with my husband. So it's like, it's not even about the person that came to you about the problem. Show your interest in what's being said. Self-explanatory. Setting your judgment aside. Providing feedback. That is so important. Whether that's verbal or non-verbal. So the head nods, acknowledging, saying, yes, I understand. Asking them for clarification. So what does that mean? What do you mean by that? Can you explain to me more about that? And then truly to hear the emotion behind the words that person is communicating. That's key to communication. So if they feel like they're not being heard, that's when they become disinterested in carrying on that conversation. So paying attention to the nonverbal signals. Being aware of differences. So, for example, a lot of times, like the men and women, I use my own example here. Like sometimes when I talk to my dad, he's here in the room. It's really hard for me to look him in the eye. So just paying attention to that, or if you're like talking to an elderly, or if you're talking to like a younger child, just making sure that you are aware of that person's differences. So whether that's age, that's gender, status, just a lot of times you have to be aware of that difference and try to match or mirror that communication with that person. So to me and my dad, if he doesn't look me in the eye, that's okay. I know he's still listening because he's nodding his head. And then look at the nonverbal communication signals as a group. So looking at the person's whole picture. So whether they're nodding their head, they're turning away, they're touching their phone, those are really important to make sure that you are seeing the signals that the other person is sending to you, to make sure that you know, hey, are they still interested in this or this conversation, or maybe this isn't the time to talk. And then using nonverbal signals that match up with your words. Adjusting your nonverbal signals according to the context. So what's really important is, depending on the context, so if you're having a conversation with your child, you have to be able to adjust the nonverbal communication as well to match what you are discussing verbally with that child. And then avoiding that negative body language that I talked about earlier. If you're talking, please engage in nodding your head with that other person to avoid that body language, and turn your face towards that person, turn your body towards that person, so that will help avoid that negative body language. All right, this is what's really important as well in communication. Keeping stress in check. Having self-awareness of your stress levels while you're communicating is so important. Using stalling tactics. It is okay to sometimes stop for a moment when you're talking and gather your thoughts and then talk again. Those are called stalling tactics. So that's okay. You have to pause and collect your thoughts, make one point, and provide an example or supporting piece of information. So you talk about something, but you bring in some information to support what you're saying. And then remember to deliver your words clearly. And then always wrap up with a summary. So this is what I heard you say. And then stop. And then the last tip here, assertiveness or asserting yourself. That's really important in communication. You have to value yourself and your opinion. Know your needs and your wants when you're communicating. Express negative thoughts in a more positive way versus communicating the negativity. And then when somebody actually gives you feedback, that is okay. Be open to receiving that feedback in a positive way and incorporate that into your life in a positive way. And they're learning to set boundaries. Sometimes saying no is okay. So just knowing your limit and what you are capable of doing and not doing, and being able to say no. But I'll share a quick story with you regarding the setting boundaries. So I had this child that we did an assertiveness group training for 8 weeks. And the last week I get a call frantically from his mom. And she said, "Shao, what have you been teaching my son?" And I said, "What's going on?" And mom says, "I told him to take out the garbage, and I told him to help me mow the lawn, and he's been saying no to me because he said you said I can say no, because that is a boundary I'm setting with you, Mom." All right? So setting boundaries, so I had to review that with him. I'm like, well, that really isn't a boundary setting. You're just trying to say no to your mom because you don't want to do chores. There's a difference between that. So, all right.
Oh, we got 7 more minutes. 7. Yep. Questions?
Yeah, we'll just do questions. So I think we won't have time for that activity because that involves like 10 minutes of our time in reflection. So I think Dr. Corey and I can be available for any questions.
Question?
Yeah. How to explain that? My question to Ned is, which you just been doing now.
Lu ka yo kudu yun director ka long và mình cái culture và mình có lòng và mình có bao nhiêu so okay thì cũng có culture xí nhất thấu với nhau thì có lòng thôi cái culture thì khám sai cái kudu IT cái lòng lên cái bữa đó nó lên cái cũng mỗi cái IT nè lên cái kudu IT cái lòng yeah, chân rong các nhà cũng từ history research các lo nó ya chân. Yeah, Jennifer này nó women affair các nhà từ nghĩa tin là tu các nhà. Cha tổ các nhà cũng theo sân bỏ này ya cũng ở từ chia cho này nó sa này nó state representative này nó sân bỏ cha tổ này ya từ lo. Thì bỏ cái lo nó thì bỏ cái ya tu assistant dong cái attorney công chức phụ ya pay via này tu legal counsel rồi okay cái lo nó ya chỉ bây giờ advisor ya chú cờ với cũng chân to tiền nó gì ya được to nó nhau nó ta chỉ theo được to chỉ là nó chỉ chú cờ với là phải tu gì giờ chỉ tu to một ya cũng nó phổ biến bắt thang nó chỉ via này thế chỉ chú với cái nhau thì cái lo nó thì phổ biến bắt thang nó rồi với của tu advisor thế nó okay thì cũng sao mỗi lần nó có cho ta cho này nó paper administration nó paper lúc event nó giờ chỉ mua là cho chúa tổ chức xí cho của họ được là gì lúc lý sinh pay của họ là chỉ chủ xí nè cái chúa cũ chỉ tu assistant financial là tu với chuyện tu là số nhá và thì nó chỉ như thử rồi, nhá của tôi nào, như vậy.
Tao à, tại sao tao bật đấy?
Kể từ các bạn thì nó lên rồi tôi xem. Jadi form và nó bắt đầu phát hành nó đó là cái gì mà nó tây cả nó chuyển到paper mình chỉ học được vấn đề mà sau thì giờ nên nó chỉ nhau học paper administration thế thì vấn đề chắc là cũng tháo với là lúc cho và tan cho paper administration nó những cái mua là chỉ cho cái mà gì cũng lý cho là vậy cho học được nó sẽ còn nó thể chủ sĩ tàu cũng ý là cũng chỉ tàu nên số tổ nên ý là với sao bây ý là với sao giờ nên là họ học được thể chủ sĩ không là ý nuôi rồng chắc là 我 我呢那你做错多你老爸我了呢在古也在呢那你我找得了被我能到地方面我的嘛也你做错多你其实一样个哩一人拜人要你那些古我为了我国我你做你那是他一种个地上路叫你叫自己报叫要我你多呢那他你把我的一种是我来做这些因为有我呢被我干嘛呢？Okay, kita akan berdoa. Ya, thank you.
开到麦，开到麦呀，
我现在要，没有现在要背啊，他一大多给背。
呀，够了。咋了呢？
老手上一个，呀，老叫妹了，这个。哦呀，people。
路上跑下边嘛。
啊，路上。
大哥，这样。大哥。这是我 OK 噻。
Okay, the ladies can be.
It won't break, trust me.
Move in.
I built it.
Okay,
put it.
That's why we were worried.
Okay.
Nên cho
nhân lúc đây trong cái vui tổ chức được lúc đồng hồ vì này là giáo dục national rồi chúng ta sẽ là một câu nói sẽ là cái gì lúc đấy lúc đồng hồ tây toa với lúc cũng trong chỉ cho trong tôi để nó tây toa tây cho mình cái nó một chỗ trong đây số là số tụ nó mà của sau thế toa cả trong cái này toa đây toa đây toa rồi cho họ toa chỉ tàu là xí mua này bao nhiêu thế toa tây cho nó chân cho nên là cũng có mỗi lần pha một cái sự cho cho nó đồng xe thì nó là cái gì cái mà họ chỉ có được
nhớ rằng với Dr. Tuna với VP đối với National Association á vậy với cho đôi chân nhận cho cứ cho ti cho số lần số tụ cho nhau đây nhớ về này họ sang cả bên lúa Vue Unity Conference thế này giờ chúng ta cho này cho gì sẽ được bao nhiêu bác sĩ cả lúc sửa tôi chơi bé trẻ bé bắt đầu thì với cho nó chia sẻ thì sẽ một vài một chế là còn một cho bắt đầu chế cả chúng ta kiến nó khá nhớ rằng là hiểu với mà nó khá sinh viên luôn
nhớ rằng này cuối chân rong Vue này giờ tụi chia cho lúc Vue Unity Conference này thì rong xe của châu tan thọ biết cho sponsor là một châu biết cho presenter cho tụi là một volunteer là một ba lúc cũng trong nó là một cái ba team là đâu cái chơi xe thế cái lúc chọn đó và Vue National Association là ba bé thế thì của châu cho tụi này chỉ ta là sẽ của châu especially đối với trên mông Vue và này sẽ là mua cái lúc xe tụi cổng bé này tụi cổng bé và tàu in mỏ nó thì cái này cái và bao hồi tiền này lúc bé chỉ nên này tụi cái tụi gì châu bé chỉ sinh viên nó bé còn cho này tụi cái tụi gì nữa thì rồi nó chia rồi cơ bé chỉ ở một đâu rồi còn đây nó và cái xe thì là rồi lúc Vue National Association nó bé mua tê họ cùng trong nó là này các tụi cùng bé rồi nè thì nhớ trong này sẽ đời mà các cái gì luôn rồi này
các hai cái gì để không may đó
知道了。
好。哎呀，还在鼓节。
呀。
OK， 不知道鼓红了。
知道，这照一打了。
我能够
哦呀，照一打，真在照一打。照一打。
练练。
到哪塔了？
到了，ready。nhớ rằng là ý trong cái thì sản phẩm thông tây chờ mình lại cả nó của nhà năng gì từ sở chế của thợ sở chế đồ của họ Vue National Association lúc nào vậy lúc trong hai người để nó bé ba tổ lúc của trong chỉ cho trong bé tổ sinh chi trong đó nó giờ ý cho cái và để nó bé tổ tây chờ mình lại cả nó tổ đến đây là giờ thì ý cho cái trong của thợ của cho đồ bé ý trong cái thì cho nhau đây nhau về thì chỉ sợ là số lần số tụ và giờ chỉ muốn này sang cả tiểu bé và lúc của trong này giờ chỉ chân giờ chỉ sợ giờ nên là thợ của châu này cho từ họ tổ sang cả này tổ tàu là từ tổ là cho họ sang cả giờ lần nhiệt xe ta chỉ này tổ chỉ tàu là bé lúc của họ Vue National bé cho các trong đó này cho cái này nó sơ thì cho cái ba chân tàu thì tàu đây nó một cho cái ship ba de bé lúc của họ đó rồi bé 这个的什么有老肉天，给些招容有么老肉子了呀，当得鸟容那是的被毛星期多路过中了呀，早给些他多那么。